Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I thank the Select Committee on Human Rights and Constitutional Matters for the report that they prepared between our sittings yesterday and today. It was within a short time, I know, but they've done a good job, which they needed to be applauded for. And I also thank the Health Committee for facilitating our sensitization to our various consequences, which of course paid a dividend, because some of us find a very funny situation at our area. Many of the communities did not understand, and some they do, but they didn't agree. So for the NAMs to go back to them, really make them understand, and some even agree. But then I think that will be my argument. And I also thank the honorable ministers that are here with us since in the morning. Honorable Minister of Justice, the Finance Minister and the Health Minister, of course, and the Minister of Transportation, Trade, sorry. Honorable Speaker, my intervention is going to be limited only on the regulation because of time reasons. And I know so many things has been already highlighted. If one important issue is shared by 53 members, automatically if you happen to be among the last 10 or 20, almost everything will be exhausted. And we have to accept that, because somebody must come after another. In the regulation, specifically, closure and restriction on non-essential public places, Emergency Power Regulation 2020. That is where I have an issue. In the regulations, there are a list from A to Z, from A to J. That are the places that, where do I put my hair? Okay. For the purpose of this regulation, the following are designated as non-essential public places: bar, cinema and video club, gymnasium, museum, nightclub, public swimming pools, event halls, casinos, and gem polos, sporting areas, and public gathering of more than 5 people. In this regulation, I didn't see a church or a mosque. And these places were closed during the declaration before these regulations come to us. If I am correct, I may be corrected. But my argument is, I think there is something left out when we were doing that proclamation. As I always say, human beings, we have so many aspects in life. Here we are talking about our health and economic aspect, which are very paramount. This pandemic is panic to every Gambian. If anybody staying in the Gambia, we all want to run away from it, as well as our families. But I think if we want the people to follow the regulations, I think it is important to engage them when we are bringing regulations. Public gatherings are not allowed some times ago. But there are many public gatherings that the people are able to avoid. Our naming ceremonies were cancelled. The Quranic recitations are cancelled. and all other social activities were cancelled. But there are two programs that Muslims and Christians find it very difficult. That is the church and the mosque. Let us be very frank. Regulations, laws are made for man. Whenever you are making any law, I think the affected areas should be consulted or they should be informed. It could have been better if the imams and the pastors are engaged. Whereas we can find a solution to the problem without getting ourselves into problem. As we are sitting here today, an imam is arrested in my own community and taken to police when we have the regulation in front of us. What are the justifications? It's very important in these kind of decisions, whenever the government wants to take this kind of decision, that has a bearing with our faith, to do consultation properly before we do any legislation or we do any regulation. Because we, for example, as National Assembly members, were in our consequences advocating for hand washing, social distances, and other preventive measures. But there are other preachers in any consequence, more than 10 or 15, that are preaching against the closure of the mosque. What is going to be the effect of our campaign now, when we have counter-campaign against us? Then this is the reason why we need to be consultative in making these kind of regulations, especially when it has to do something with our faith. I think that is the last thing we will give out. Of course, it has been declared in many Islamic countries, including Saudi Arabia, that public places of worship are closed. But how do you make people believe that? How are they going to take it? There are different informations at the social media. Different type of information. Some are coming from west, some are coming from east. With, different things. They are saying different things. I believe that as far as the regulation is already in hand, both the Ministry of Justice and Health should engage the religious leaders, discuss with them. This is a problem that can easily be solved when we sit together to discuss. Let me be hastening to say this. We are so much careful about our health, and we should be so much careful about our health and our livelihood. But remember, the Bible also says that man should not live only by bread. We come from different schools of thought, and we have different mentalities. But still now we are dealing with everybody. So whenever a decision comes to that point, we need to engage our religious leaders. We discuss with them. I know in certain, like Christianity, social distances can be observed. Hand washing can be observed. There can be other preventive measures in the church that would avoid contamination, and yet they can do their worship. But all this can be done when you negotiate, when you engage them. But when regulations are against our faith, I'm afraid it's going to be a very, very, very tough campaign to make them believe, because so many of that kind has happened in the country. How many years does it take us for us to make our people believe that female genital mutilation is not taboo against Islam? That is my only concern. If it was not this argument, I would have just raised my case. But I want us to be very much careful when we are legislating or when we are making any regulations that has a bearing with our faith. 90% of the population are Muslim. The imams are not adhering to this. Otherwise, that imam that has been arrested today will not go to police. If you go, they will tell you openly. My own colleague, I was able to convince him, but the first statement he told me was, Inna salatu wa nusuki wa mahyaya wa mamati lillah. If I am alive, if I am dead, I belong to Allah. How can you make that person believe? Sometimes we need to engage them. I think that was what we forgot. Oh, that is what we left behind. This is why they could not listen to this advice. We can take them together, talk to them, and they will simply understand that we are not doing this just to block them from worship, but we are doing it for their own safety. And then we can even think of a modality that even a congregative prayers can be conducted with having that distance. Whatever you call in Islam haram, for example, if there is a condition, it's halal. Sometimes you may find it difficult for somebody praying at that distance, but it's possible when there is condition that does not allow you to come closer to one another. I think we have to engage them in one way or the other so that we'll be able to make them understand. Otherwise, we are not going to be in the same line with them. With that, Honorable Speaker, I beg to take my seat. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.